From the Primatech Paper Company, it's the IGN Digigods. Now, please welcome two indestructible cheerleaders, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Man, that is one offbeat reference. What longtime listener sent that one in, Corey?
That was by Chevelle Dixon, who's looking forward to heroes coming back. And no one else.
Oh, that's too funny. Kind of timely.
It is kind of timely.
Heroes is coming back.
You know what? I don't know why.
Greg Grunberg is happy to have the new gig.
He is.
He's in Star Wars too. JJ puts him in everything.
It is true.
It's hysterical.
Because Greg is to JJ what John Ratzenberg is to Pixar.
Yes. It's true.
His good luck charm.
It kind of is, yeah. Sort of is. And Greg was, I shouldn't even say this. Greg was the first person to write a review for my Jackie Chan book years ago when that thing went up on Amazon, and he just went nuts for it. It's like, okay, down, boy.
Greg did?
Yeah.
It's weird.
He wrote me this really rave review. It was awesome.
I didn't know he was a book critic.
He's not.
Okay.
It was just, the user reviews.
Got it.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah, I owe him. Anyway, hey, Alex Rocco died.
We did that last week.
I know.
Just talk about DVDs.
Okay, I'm still kind of mourning that. That's
no, you're not.
Well, and Horner. I mean, I was never a Horner fan, but I'm like, there's never going to be another James Horner score.
Actually, there's going to be two. Well, Southpaw.
Yes, yes.
And then the Chilean Miner, the Chilean sea bass film.
Correct.
The Chilean sea bass film.
That is correct. Yes. See, those two, but they were already in the
pipeline and
they're
done.
in the pipeline. They're done. They're finished.
Yes. Yeah. Look, all I know is someday there will be a Star Wars film without a John Williams score.
Yeah, true.
At this point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that's sad. Very sad.
It's very sad.
I mean, how old is John Williams? John Williams must be well into his 70s.
Oh yeah, he's almost 80.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Boo. All of our heroes getting older.
All right, Mark. We have a whole bunch of documentaries backlogged here. So let's kick through these just a tad. We've got PBS stuff to start off with, and a ton of these are war themed. The first one I'm going to talk about is not war themed. Actually, the first two. Series 2 of Shakespeare Uncovered is out, which is really great. These are all the stories behind Shakespeare's plays, which for anybody who even if you're a casual Shakespeare fan, this is super interesting stuff. And it gets into the great literary and historical details, and it's really fascinating. And it's all done with so much class and distinction. Really, really great. This is WNET 13 that sort of initiated this for PBS. And, different celebrity hosts each one of these. Hugh Bonneville from Downton Abbey, of course, does Midsummer Night's Dream. Christopher Plummer does King Lear. Morgan Freeman, Taming of the Shrew. David Harewood, Othello. Joseph Fiennes, Romeo and Juliet, appropriately. The man who starred as Shakespeare in Shakespeare in Love. And Kim Cattrall, Antony and Cleopatra. So that's season 2 of that. And then another doc that I really, really highly recommend. It's called Caring for Mom and Dad, Facing the Everyday Challenges of Being a Working Caregiver. Anybody who's been through the aging parent or aging parent generation thing really should see this. It is illuminating, it is insightful, it is reassuring, it is educational in all the great ways that a doc like this needs to be. Meryl Streep narrates it as if it isn't serious enough. She gives it that extra level of gravitas. But really, for anybody who out there is looking for a way to cope with something that might feel just like a completely new endeavor and just be terrified at what it means in terms of time and finances and the rest of your family, definitely worth checking out. I can say that having gone through this firsthand, this is really, really reassuring and definitely something that'll put a little bit of gas back in your tank. We have a whole bunch of war-themed stuff from PBS that is both then and now, and it's just maybe you'll find it depressing, maybe you won't, but it's sort of the ever-presence of conflict in our world is really interesting. This one is just superb. It's called 1913 Seeds of Conflict. Early encounters between Jewish and Arab nationalism. 1913, of course, is a fascinating year because you're talking about the on the verge of World War I, and the Middle East looked like a very, very different place. Anyone who's seen Lawrence of Arabia knows that it was carved up in a very unorthodox way after the fact. So this goes to what it was like before then, in the waning days of the Ottoman Empire. Really, really good. About an hour long, but it's really well done. Frontline is doing some amazing documentaries, by the way. There are some Frontlines that are coming up that are just mind-boggling. I'm just blown away by the stuff they're getting. I really am. This one, The Fight for Yemen, which is totally off of the news cycle right now. I'm not sure why. You realize Yemen is like a failed state right now.
So's Mexico. It's Donald Trump.
But I mean, Yemen it's like civil war. It's a failed state. Iran versus Saudi Arabia in a proxy war. It's a mess. It's horrible. I can't even, like, there's that you remember there's that you never watched Friends, did you?
Oh, a friend of mine went on a date with Matthew Perry.
That's your answer to my question. Have you ever watched Friends?
Look, would you rather have me say yes or no, or my friend went on a date with Matthew Perry? Which one is more interesting?
That answers my question.
She said he was horrible.
Okay, well, good.
Total narcissist.
I'm sure.
He admitted during the date that he had dated 2 girls at the same time for 9 months. And
That's great.
And didn't tell the other.
That's fantastic. Well, anyway, there's an episode of Friends where Matthew Perry is trying to get away from Janice, and so he actually flies to Yemen. At first it was supposed to be a joke, but then he's at the airport and she sees him off and he goes, "I'm going to Yemen." And it's a joke. It's funny and you laugh. Yeah, because Yemen is funny. Yemen ain't funny no more.
I remember.
This is messed up.
I have a memory of you and Christy had gone to a Laker game.
Yes.
I have this memory.
In Yemen?
Yes. And you insisted on your way home, you insisted on stopping at my apartment. I lived in Santa Monica at the time. Because there was an episode of Friends you had to watch. So you literally said, would you mind if we stop at your place and watch this episode of Friends because we won't make it otherwise? This is before DVR and all
Really?
that. Yes.
We did this?
Yeah, I swear to God. I have this memory of it.
I
It was before DVR and that kind of stuff.
I
So
have no recollection of this.
yes.
What was this, 1927? That's very strange. Okay, well, anyway, The Fight for Yemen, really just good but depressing on a whole crazy level. Dick Cavett's Vietnam. Mark, Dick Cavett's Vietnam. I bet you didn't know that Dick Cavett owned Vietnam at one point, did you? He did. He bought it in a fire sale.
Yeah, let me tell you, he was one of the
After
bravest.
the war.
He was one of the bravest soldiers of Vietnam, wasn't he?
He was. No, you know what? It's amazing because, and basically, Dick Cavett, who was just a television legend at the time in the 1970s, this is entirely how the war was depicted through the interviews that he did on his show, on the Dick Cavett Show. And it's really interesting. Again, this is something that should go in context with any other sort of historical archival coverage of the Vietnam War. But Dick Cavett as a pop culture prism, his show is so interesting to look at. People forget, in the 1970s, there were talk show hosts sort of defined the world for us. And it's not like now, we think of now, Letterman and Leno and, Jimmy Fallon and, it wasn't like that then. You literally, Mark, tell me I'm wrong. 1970s, we're talking Dick Cavett, Johnny Carson,
Tom Snyder,
Mike,
Douglas,
Merv,
Griffin,
I mean,
Dinah,
right?
sure.
But you know what I mean? That was an amazing era for talk because all of them had, we knew them by their names. Mike. Did you watch Mike? Did you watch Merv? Did you watch Dinah? Eventually, John Davidson had his own show, and you had to add the name because everybody's named John. But that was really an amazing era. That was kind of amazing. That was sort of incredible. Anyway, the day the 60s died, the Kent State shootings. We throw this in, of course, with the war thing because it's all about the Vietnam War and protests, and it was a little bit of a little war at home. And the nice thing about this is it's not just about Kent State, but it puts it into its socio-historical context, and it really was a big deal. Nazi Attack on America is an episode of Nova, which deals with this fascinating, completely unknown incident or series of incidents that cost over 5,000 American lives. And it's all, part of this clandestine U-boat operation called Operation Drumbeat. And anyway, it's really, really interesting. And it's all sort of, it comes to light through undersea exploration. That's why it's an episode of Nova, because they have to do a lot of sort of aqua archaeology. I don't know if that's the term, but I like it.
Aqueology?
Aqua archaeology. Aquology.
Okay, Aquaman.
Aquology. Gosh, is that going to be good or not? Or is it just going to be a big Jason Momoa?
It'll just be some big, dark, macho thing where just he runs around with his beard, his big staff of
his trident,
of trident of macho-ness. And
you know what I think of when I see that trident?
The gum?
No, I think of Steve Carell
in
Anchorman. I just killed a guy with a trident. We better find you a safe house.
No, what's more?
Hysterical. That's just so. That line reading just rips me apart.
No, which
I
is
just
the one?
Killed a guy with a trident.
No, which is the line over the opening credits when Will Ferrell, who's like doing his vocal exercises before they do they start the show. So somebody was denied who's denied a bank loan? Some superhero was denied a bank loan. Which one was that?
I can't remember.
It's the Human Torch was denied a bank loan,
so
or something
funny.
like that.
Then we have another one here, The Draft, which is a really interesting examination. Nobody today knows about The Draft. When I was growing up, The Draft was a real thing. I mean, and a lot of people were scared to death of it because Vietnam was still going on and the body count was going up and up and up. So anyway, this looks at the entire history of the draft and arguments for and against it, and whether or not it should be brought back, whether or not it should not be brought back. Really, really interesting. Great documentary about something that is just not a part of our cultural iconography anymore. And then lastly, another amazing frontline, American terrorist David Coleman Headley and the Siege on Mumbai.
That's Headley.
Thank you. That's what I said. Stop it.
That's Headley.
No, this is a co-production between Frontline and ProPublica, and they're basically David Coleman Headley is the subject of this.
Headley.
Yeah, thank you. Who was essentially one of the central figures in the 2008 siege on Mumbai. And a lot of people don't know this because that just sort of escaped the news here. But this is really quite an extraordinary bit of sort of investigative journalism and research journalism and historiography. And they spin a story that I'm kind of amazed that our mainstream news media completely missed, and how the FBI sort of was able to track down Headley and eventually turn him into one of their top witnesses. So this is great, and it's pretty chilling as well, but it's really well done. Amazing stuff. All right, Mark, whatever. Do you want to talk about that, or should I knock this out?
Wait, let me tell you something.
Yes, sir.
We got two from the good folks at PBS. We have Children of Giant. Now, Giant, of course, is the mid-'50s classic starring, what's his name? James Dean, Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson. And at the time, literally hundreds of cast members and crew people just descended upon this little tiny town in Texas, town of Marfa, to shoot this movie.
Marfa,
Texas, to shoot this movie.
Sure, that's not like a little kid trying to say Martha.
It was the film Marfa, Marcy, May, Marlene.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, 60 years later, these PBS guys, they go back to Marfa to talk to some of the descendants of the people who lived in the town at the time they shot the movie. They also talk to some of the original cast members and some of their descendants. And it's interesting because they also get into the film, how it was made, the legacy of the film, stories about James Dean. So if you like Giant, and who doesn't, it's good. It's a good movie. Now, I had a lot of interest in Invisible Universe because it's all about the Hubble telescope. And it reminded me that when the Hubble telescope, which of course now is like this legendary classic, live forever, amazing telescope that gives us all these sights we've never seen before, when that thing first went up, it was a disaster.
I know. It's like it was out of focus when it first went up.
There was 1 millimeter was out of focus, the whole thing destroyed.
And I feel like it wasn't like we had to send up a team of astronauts to just walk up to it and just go and adjust the focus manually. It was almost something like that. The Invisible Universe reminds us of this. Because made me think, why you can't do that remotely? Like we can take photos remotely from all the way down with Pluto, but you couldn't adjust the focus remotely on this thing. We got focus pullers on movie sets who can do it from a continent away. What the hell?
This is 25 years ago.
I know.
Anyway, so it does remind you of that great story about these 5 astronauts who went up to refocus the Hubble.
Yeah.
So it's a great story, and the Hubble, of course, now for a generation has been giving us amazing images. So there you go. Invisible Universe Revealed. That's about the Hubble.
Aren't those photos of Pluto unbelievable?
You know what? Forget that. I just look. Let's just get to one of the moons of Jupiter, find the aliens, or find the evidence of alien life. And
Did you see what Corey posted?
No.
Corey slays me. He really does. Corey, if you're listening, you are awesome. Corey posted a thing. It says, courtesy of NASA, and it was this enormous close-up picture of Mickey Mouse. It was like Mickey Mouse's eye and part of an ear or whatever. And it took me a moment. I was like, NASA, Mickey? Oh, I get it.
Giggles.
It's very funny. 3 really terrific things here from Zeitgeist and Icarus. This is a film by Bill Morrison, Beyond Zero, 1914 to 1918. And this is so fascinating. Bill Morrison is, for those who don't know, is an experimental filmmaker. He's an avant-garde filmmaker who made this thing called Decasia, which is all this sort of decaying film footage cut together. The Great Flood. So essentially, this is kind of a documentary, kind of an experimental film. It's more an experience than anything else. And with this just great score by Alexandra Vrebalov, who is a Serbian composer, essentially cutting together original nitrate footage shot from during World War I, and just creating this kind of collage tapestry experiential, amazing movie that has this great music that written by Vrebalov and performed by the Kronos Quartet. It's just it's you have to see it to understand it and believe it and appreciate it. But it's really great. It's called Beyond Zero, 1914 to 1918. Really cool. And then there's also Our Daily Poison by Marie-Monique Robin, or Robin, depending on what country's pronunciation you want to use. We have an ongoing cavalcade of documentaries that are all about how food is just bad for us. And the more I see things like this and Food Inc. and what was the Morgan Spurlock thing?
The thing where he
overeating, Supersize Me.
Supersize Me.
Supersize
It was called Eat Me?
Yes, Eat Me. That's what it was. Supersize Me, Food Inc., a few others, and now this. I don't even want to eat anymore. I just kind of put me on an IV and I'll roll that around with me. This is just absolutely horrific, and it deals with why are there so many neurological diseases, cancer? Why are all these things just suddenly becoming almost epidemic in proportion in the developed world? And so they explore that, and they get into what's going on with our food, and why are these things not being controlled? And it's horrifying, because it tells you that our food is more poison than food, and all the regulatory agencies and filter agencies that are supposed to control this and keep our food supply safe are just sort of enabling the poison more than anything else. It's just I'm sure there's a rebuttal to this, but I can't imagine how they can rebut all of it. The
rebuttal is my ice cream. Because when I make my ice cream,
which is loaded with hormones from the milk, because it's not organic milk, which means you're going to grow breasts this week. You will.
Look, I'm so fat right now, I already have plenty of fleshy man boob I can show off to everybody. By the way, last week I made kettle corn ice cream.
I don't even...
Kettle corn ice cream.
Okay, what do I do with that?
You eat it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Kettle corn ice cream.
Sounds terrifying.
Good. Oh, I also made bacon peanut butter ice cream.
Okay.
You wouldn't eat that, right?
No, I wouldn't get anywhere near that. Not even close.
More for me.
And then lastly, there's a little doc here called 112 Weddings. And 112 Weddings is by a filmmaker named Doug Block, who you probably know from The Kids Grow Up, if anybody saw that. And Block basically, in between the ability to make documentaries that actually made him any money, he was just a wedding videographer. He just shot weddings, as a lot of people do. A lot of filmmakers do that to support themselves. And but in this case, he decided, you know what, I've really become very close to a lot of these people, and then I never see them again after I shoot their wedding, and we plan the shoot and the whole thing, and then they go off on their wedding, and then these people that I become very close to leading up to their big day, I never see them again. So he decided to do kind of a 7-up, 21 up, 35 up, 42 up type thing. with one film and go back and visit them. And it's really an interesting look at the whole institution of marriage from the point of view of a guy who was, hired to be there on the special day, and then he goes back and revisits it, and it's really interesting. It's very, very, very smart, very clever, very unusual film, and really just so polished in every respect. And I hope this does a great number for Block, because he deserves to be doing more than just shooting weddings, for sure.
Wait, let me tell you something.
Yes.
I have something to say. Something very important. I love this movie, Merchants of Doubt. Merchants of Doubt is by Robert Kenner, the same guy who did Food, Inc. And this one really is going to just blow your doors off regarding, like when you watch cable news and you hear all these like corporate finance, public relations people talking about how, this particular thing isn't so bad and that means tobacco is fine and crack is okay and hormones are fine. And because like these guys, they're corporate finance, they're these PR people, and they come on loaded with statistics. And we think that they're these impartial guests on these talk shows and being interviewed for newspaper articles and whatnot. They're not. This was Oscar nominated. It was. Yeah. These PR people are all corporate finance, and it really will. It's going to piss you off because it's going to really make you look at everything you're being told by certain parties. Certain parties you can still trust, certain parties you'll never trust. And then there's people like these guys who you thought maybe you could trust, but then they can't. They're just these fast-talking, slick guys who, as Wade says, they're just filled with statistics, and all they want to do is confuse you into thinking that whatever the latest thing is that's bad is actually, like, good. That's what they do. Yeah, they go on talk shows, or they're interviewed in magazines and newspaper articles, and Merchants of Doubt is all about that and is just a terrific documentary. The Blu-ray has some deleted scenes, a little event there at the Toronto Film Festival, which is okay, and a commentary by Robert Kenner, the director. So there you go. So Merchants of Doubt, very highly recommended. Yes. Yes. Salt of the Earth is another Oscar-nominated little ditty. This is from Wim Wenders. There is a photographer named Sebastiano Salgado. Oh, you just killed that one. I got Salgado right. Yeah, you got it. This guy is an amazing photographer. For like 40 years, the guy goes through all the continents, and he just amazing shots of people and landscapes. He has witnessed some of the most amazing events, and they have some of the his classic photos in this documentary. And so now this documentary is all about this other new thing he's doing, which is that he goes into these areas that are like never been touched before, and he takes pictures. So literally, you've got these great landscape pictures, this amazing photography project, which is all about these areas that have just never been touched before, right? So man hasn't come in there and bulldozed it. It's gorgeous. So it's a lot of gorgeous stuff. It's a nice beautiful Blu-ray. It's a really good, really nice Bluray. Well, because the Blu-ray does a lot of justice to the beauty of the photos. Yeah. So you just can't beat that. There's a commentary with Wim Wenders, some deleted scenes, and Salt of the Earth, Oscar-nominated, just gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful stuff. So I very highly recommend that. I also recommend Ancient Aliens, since we were just talking about the idea that I just want them to go to one of the Saturn's moons or Jupiter's moons, find the aliens, and let's just all move on. So Ancient Aliens Season 7. This is a show on the History Channel that is all about, they get into these mysteries about certain things that are on Earth, the how usual, were they created. Yeah. Were they, it's funny, too, because like they just found out something new about the pyramids. Yeah. The pyramids, I guess... They were casinos. They're ancient Egyptian casinos, and nobody knew. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. Unbelievable. They found, they found slot machines and craps tables. Buffet. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, buffet. Still operating, by the way. It's amazing. They haven't changed the bread in 7,000 years. They have not changed the bread in 7,000 years. No, there was an article about how it turns out that the guys who built the pyramids were paid. Yeah. They were paid. They were not slaves. No, but nobody. They were paid for their work. But this has essentially been known for. Look, I don't want to get into this, but Christ. The only reason anybody seriously, this is the power of movies. Everyone's like, really? You mean slaves didn't build the pyramids? No, slaves did not build them. What made you think slaves? Well, doesn't it say in the Bible that slaves? No, it doesn't say in the Bible that Jewish slaves built the pyramids. It says, in like one spot, it says that the Egyptians put the Jews, the Hebrews, under hard labor to build a particular city or two. It doesn't say pyramids. Do you know who put that idea of pyramids into our head? Ten Commandments. Cecil B. DeMille. Exactly. It's incredible. It's so infuriating. Anyway, that stupid movie. Ancient Aliens Season 7, you get a 10,000-year-old artwork found in a cave. they talk about the Great Sphinx, and so look, if you like this stuff, it's a little bit alien, a little bit conspiracy, so it's kind of fun. One more, we have there's this woman in Russia. Her name is Oksana Shako, and she is this feminist, and she is a woman who fights against political corruption and patriarchal political systems by walking around without her clothes.
Oh, totally.
That's what she does.
Yeah, I know about this lady.
That's her thing.
Yeah.
She uses her body, plays it front and center in all these protests around the streets of Kiev and also all across Europe. And this movie, I Am Femin, by Alain Margot, is all about this woman. Now, the only reason why this woman is getting attention for brandishing her naked body all over Kiev is because she's hot.
Kind of true.
Okay. Literally, if it was called I Am Kathy Bates, this would not be made into a documentary. Okay. But this woman is attractive. And of course, she's smart. She has political opinions and she's willing to put out. Okay. Moving on.
All right. More great docs. Really great docs. 72% is very, very disturbing, but it's an important doc and it's an important subject, and it should not end with this documentary. 72% is the number that represents the number of black children that are born out of wedlock in basically single-parent homes, almost all of them single-mom homes. And it is a devastating statistic, and it's something that very few people are eager to talk about, except these filmmakers. So they tackle this. This is from Cinedigm, and it is part of the Docurama line that has been such a central part of the Cinedigm library for so long. And they tackle this thing head on, and they talk to everybody, and they go to everybody from Don Lemon to Ben Carson and on and on and on. And the idea is to get to the bottom of why, culturally, historically, socially, all the other factors, what has created this unbelievably horrible statistic that is tearing apart black families and black communities, and what can we do to fix it? And again, it doesn't get to the bottom of anything, but it digs a really big hole. And the idea is that you're supposed to keep digging so that we can all get to the bottom of it, because it's the beginning of the conversation, not the end of the conversation. But it's a really, really good doc, and it asks some hard-hitting questions, and they do a very brave thing in going after it. We've got more Jewish things that we're going to be talking about shortly on Mark's end. Jewish things. You've got Jewish things in front of you, and I've got a Jewish thing and a food thing, and that fits both themes with our docs today. This is Deli Man, the story of the men behind the food, behind the tradition. You know what? Delicatessens are certainly not an American creation, but as the delicatessen exists in America, it's very much a part of the history of Jewish communities in America. And it's an amazing part of American culture that, if you live in New York, it's obviously really in front of you all the time. Katz's and Carnegie and Nate and Allen, Stage Deli, it's all right there in front of you. And this is getting into that tradition and where it is sort of now versus where it was, and primarily through the experience of this guy named Ziggy Gruber, who has built an unbelievable delicatessen in Houston.
What's wrong with that?
That epic Jewish community center called Houston, Texas.
Hey, so we are taking over.
I know, clearly.
You think slowly Muslims are infiltrating our cities and towns, trying to make everyone all Muslim-y?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Jews doing it better.
Yeah. So what you're saying,
you know why? Because the Muslims, they try to convert you with religious text and violence. We try to convert you with food.
See, and I much prefer that.
Thank you.
I really do. What's your favorite deli in New York, by the way? As long as we're talking about it.
Well, people love Katz's Deli on Houston. Katz's Deli is great. Some of the big touristy, actually, some of the Carnegie, I believe Carnegie closed at. I think the Carnegie Deli closed.
Yeah.
Some of the bigger touristy delis, they're not famous for having great food. They're famous for having gigantic, piled high sandwiches. Yeah. That's their thing.
Yeah.
It'll be like an 8-inch high corned beef sandwich.
Love it. It's great.
Exactly.
It's the best.
But I would go for Katz's Deli.
Katz's. All right. Good. Thank you. Good advice. Heaven Adores You is a Blu-ray about the life. It's a documentary about the life and music of Elliott Smith. And I, of course, I'm like, Elliott Smith? I'm not sure I really understand. Do I know Elliott Smith? I certainly do now. And wow, really just unbelievably fascinating. Elliott Smith died in 2003, we should point out, prematurely, and would have certainly had a much more significant impact on the music scene than he had he continued to live. But this is a really, really good documentary. Great music. Fascinating look at all the different all the different locales that were sort of the backdrop for his music. It's really, really good. So that's a Blu-ray. Heaven Adores You, a documentary film about the life and music of Elliott Smith. And then my last two, before I turn this back over to Mark. My last two documentaries before I turn it back over to you. Okay, that's Mark's old Jewish deli voice. I have a personal connection to both of these. And this first one is called Lost Soul, The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau. This is a great doc, period. It's one of the best docs I've ever seen about a film that wasn't. And there are a lot of them. You know, there are a lot of great behind-the-scenes docs and a lot of great docs about films that never happened, like, Jodorowsky's Dune and things like that. This is right there with him. Richard Stanley, of course, made Hardware and Dust Devil, and he was this crazy South African-born kind of British-American citizen of the world guy with all kinds of sort of occultish obsessions and a very sort of effete way of talking, and he had a really, really kind of, ethereal personality, and he was this wunderkind, right? Hardware was a big deal in the 80s, and it was one of the first cyberpunk movies made on a shoestring, and he had a really great style. And anyway, he was hired to do this remake of Island of Dr. Moreau that was going to star Marlon Brando. And the film completely spiraled out of control. It just went completely off the rails and wound up being directed by John Frankenheimer, and Stanley was fired from the film, and he never really had a film career again. So this revisits that moment. Now here is my story. It was around the time that this thing was being planned that a certain friend of ours, an acquaintance of yours and mine, Eitan Arusi, who Mark and I both know.
I've heard that name in years.
I know.
What is he doing?
I don't know what he's doing. But Eitan, who I had met with our friend Ian at Cannes, Eitan came to stay with me. He was out here. He'd done a CD-ROM back when they had such things, a CD-ROM thing called Burn Cycle, which was also very cyberpunky. And so Eitan came out here to be peddled at and take some Hollywood meetings, and he stayed with me. And by sheer coincidence, one of my neighbors at the time was Adam Simon. Now, Adam Simon had gone to USC Film School with other acquaintances of ours. He'd gone there with Ray Green, my partner on Schlock, a colleague of ours in the LA Film Critics. And so Adam Simon had been at USC at the same time as Ray Green, as Matt Reeves, as James Gray. They were all part of that same class of guys at USC. Adam Simon, by coincidence, had just done Carnosaur for Corman, which was, a knockoff of Jurassic Park. And Adam Simon lived about a block and a half from me. I didn't know this. Eitan, Adam Simon, acquaintances. And one Sunday, Eitan says, "Hey, we're going to go over to Adam's house. Come on over. We're going to walk on over there. And Richard Stanley's coming by, and he's going to talk about his new movie." And I remember thinking, Richard, the hardware guy, Richard Stanley, hardware guy, with the black clothes and the black hat and the long black hair, who looks like he's going to be doing an exorcism at any given moment. And he's like, yeah, he's a trippy guy. So we all go over to Adam Simon's house, and Richard Stanley shows up. And next thing I know, he and Adam Simon are like going through some atlas of the Necronomicon, looking at 500-year-old occultic symbols and just all this weird talk. But he started telling us about the Island of Dr. Moreau and what he had planned for it, and telling us stories from Dust Devil about how he wanted to really light the corpses of dead cows on fire, but they wouldn't let him, and all kinds of crazy stuff. Anyway, all the stuff that he was telling us about Island of Dr. Moreau effectively winds up in this movie. So I can tell you this is a really authoritative documentary. They really get to the root of everything. They track Stanley down in France, where he's living now. And he still looks good, still totally eccentric and irrepressibly lovable at the same time. And one of the funnier anecdotes in here concerns another friend of mine who was an executive with Fine Line at the time, who literally fell asleep during a meeting between Richard Stanley and Marlon Brando, and it's outrageously funny. So I feel like I was somehow a fly on the wall of this story from the beginning. It's a miraculous story. You've got to check this out. Lost Soul: The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau from Severin. And then the last one is another Oscar-nominated documentary This is from quite a number of years ago. This is Michael Paxton's Oscar-nominated documentary, Ayn Rand, A Sense of Life. Michael Paxton is a very good friend of mine and a superb documentarian, and he really killed it with this. He put a lot of time into doing the sort of authoritative, definitive biographical documentary on the very controversial philosopher, novelist Ayn Rand. And it's sort of more of a romance than anything else. It really sort of focuses very much on her relationship with her husband, but it does, you can't really encapsulate everything from her entire life in the one movie, but it does a pretty damn good job, and it's really polished. And I remember very well attending the premiere of this thing, and the reception was great, and the DVD transfer, the Blu-ray transfer, I should say, for Strand is just excellent. It's pristine. It's a great movie. Lots of great extras on here, photo galleries, the photos never before seen, bonus footage. It's really superb. So I highly recommend this for documentary fans as well. Ayn Rand, A Sense of Life.
Wait, turn off your phone.
Yes, sir.
You
I'm
did that
sorry.
last week, too.
I know. I changed the...
Anyway, we have two Jewy things to talk about, and I can say that because I'm Jewish. We have dialogues with Elie Wiesel and Richard D. Heffner. This is from the good folks at SISU, and then we have another SISU home entertainment DVD to talk about. You really have to be into this stuff to really get into it. If my father was alive today, he would love this stuff. My father actually met Elie Wiesel once. Anyway, Elie Wiesel, of course, Nobel Prize-winning author and Holocaust survivor and expert, and a host, Richard D. Heffner. They have just a series of dialogues, series of conversations, and they talk about religion and politics and the death penalty and really in-depth stuff. It's really heady stuff, but really, there's one about what's the moral difference between murdering somebody in cold blood and killing somebody with compassion?
For food?
For compassion.
Oh, okay.
Like, let's say a mercy killing versus killing somebody in cold blood.
What if
morally is there no difference?
What if you're just hungry and there's nothing else around to eat?
Well, then I'm going to eat. I'd probably eat grass.
You'd eat grass before you'd eat me? What if I
I die before I eat you.
Okay.
Anyway, dialogues, really heady stuff. 3-disc set, but it was on public television. But anyway, your parents might like it.
Well, all right.
Now, we also have from the good folks at SISU, we have these 3 Holocaust documentaries. Neither of these, quite frankly, are good enough for their own release, so they packaged them all into one big 3-disc set. One's called I'm Still Here, the other's called Out of Europe, and the other's called Last Stop Kew Gardens. I like Last Stop Kew Gardens because it's sort of the most entertainment heavy, because Kew Gardens
is where you were born.
You know what? Yes, that's true.
See, I know that.
How do you know that?
I don't know.
Did I ever tell you that?
Just the word Kew Gardens sounds weird.
When I was a kid, I lived in Kew Gardens till I was 3. So really, it's been a long time.
Okay.
Since I lived in Kew Gardens. But I did live in Kew Gardens till I was 3. Anyway, I like that one because the whole idea is that this little tiny village of Kew Gardens wound up giving us a lot of really famous entertainment figures, including Bob Schimmel and Jerry Springer. They all lived in Kew Gardens. So I kind of like that one the best. It's not as serious as the other two, but I did like it. The other two were definitely one's about a group of Belgian Jews trying to flee Europe in 1940, and then the other one is really good stuff. Actually, it's very poignant. It's celebrities like Elijah Wood, Joaquin Phoenix, and Kate Hudson. They read diary entries from young folks during that time. The thing aired on MTV, and so there were these young writers during that time. They had diaries, they kept diary entries, and then you've got Elijah Woods, Joaquin Phoenix, and Kate Hudson reading their diary entries. So I'm Still Here, definitely for me the second place here. Third place being Out of Europe, the story about the Belgian Jews. So there you go. Holocaust, Genocide, and Survival is the name of the set. And then the 3 films are I'm Still Here, Out of Europe, and Last Stop Kew Gardens.
Very cool. All right, I'm going to hit some new movies. We don't really have any new movies this week. We got one significant new movie, and then we'll get into some foreign stuff. Mark and I will. So real quickly, this is all, there's one significant new movie, and the others are just sort of novelty films that are new to DVD, but worth checking out. This is a cool little thriller called Still, starring Aidan Gillen, directed by Simon Blake. This comes to us from... What company sent this to us? I don't even... Oh, this is from Film Movement. Of course, I knew that. This is from Film Movement, and this is an okay film. It's a good concept, a good premise, pretty well executed. So it's worth checking out. But it's essentially about a guy who loses his son in a car crash, and then that turns into sort of the impetus for his life to spiral a little bit out of control. And he takes it out in not death wish kinds of ways, but it certainly has a very deleterious psychological effect on him in the way that his life dovetails to complete new lows. It's about how tragedy sort of rips your life apart. Worth checking out. 52 Tuesdays by director Sophie Hyde from Kino Lorber is a kind of it's a timely film. It's a little bit too kind of gritty and low budgety raw for me. But the idea here is that there's a young girl who is 16 years old, and completely the most inopportune time in her life, her mother says that she's going to undergo gender transition. And all sort of Bruce / Caitlyn Jenner analogies and jokes aside, it's a very sincere film, and the whole concept is that it takes place over the course of a year with once a week. So that's why on Tuesday, that's why it becomes 52 Tuesdays. And it includes a blooper reel, deleted scenes, extended scenes, and making of featurette. Interesting idea, interesting execution. Not quite what it needs to be. It just I would have preferred something a little more conventional given the subject matter, but it's fine. And then Comet, great cast. Don't know why I didn't even hear about this film. It's not bad. It's an IFC film that just kind of got dumped. Stars Emmy Rossum and Justin Long. The film again is Comet. And I adore Emmy Rossum, and I like Justin Long, although he's kind of vanished, hasn't he? He was there for a moment, and now he's gone.
Emmy Rossum?
No, Justin Long.
Delicious.
I know she is. She's on TV a lot. Anyway, this is basically a 6-year-long relationship character study, and with just two really, really good actors, and it zips around in time and has a little interesting kind of nonlinear structure. But it's really interesting. It's better than movies like what was the Ryan Gosling thing? Blue
Star Wars?
Blue. What was
Blue
that?
Valentine?
Blue Valentine. Didn't like Blue Valentine. This is better. Definitely check this out. Comet. And then lastly, on the new movie front, Blu-ray of The Water Diviner, Russell Crowe's directing debut. Incredibly accomplished, really very interesting film. Not perfect by any means, but incredibly ambitious, incredibly accomplished, as you would expect for someone who's made as many big movies as he had with many big directors. He certainly has learned his craft very well. And this is one of those, by the way, that was financed by Brett Ratner's new thing. Yeah. This is one of those new Rat Pack finance things. So... But this did get a little bit of flack for... It's essentially about a guy who, played by Russell Crowe, who is an Australian farmer in the wake of World War I, who goes to look for his 3 sons, who are all missing after having fought in the Battle of Gallipoli in World War I, which is where Australians were just brutalized and mowed down. And if you've seen the Peter Weir film starring Mel Gibson, Gallipoli... that's all about that battle. So this is almost like a complimentary film. And he goes back to Turkey to sort of get to the bottom of that and conduct this investigation. And the film was lambasted a little bit, somewhat opportunistically, somewhat fairly, somewhat unfairly, for whitewashing the Turks a little bit and humanizing them in the wake of what we know now in detail on the 100th anniversary of the Armenian genocide. And I somewhat agree. But I also think it's a little unfair to hold this one film to account for, telling a very simple story and not sort of delving into all the nuances of it. So I would say, as long as you are aware of the Armenian genocide in this 100th anniversary year, in which almost the entire world has now acknowledged that it happened, except for Turkey and the United States, it seems, as long as you're aware of that and you educate yourself on that, then watch the film and take the film for what it is, which is a very, very good directing debut from a very, very good actor who clearly has more movies in him as a director.
Wade Major.
There we go.
Wow.
Yes, sirree.
All right, Wade, let's talk about some more movies. On DVD, we have The Nun. The Nun is the second telling of this story. I think the first one was better. The Nun is a story about a woman who finds out that she is illegitimate, so she atones for her mother's sins by becoming a nun. And so I found this film totally boring, even at 112 minutes. Totally plodded along. I love the themes of guilt and remorse and trying to atone for the sins of others. I thought all this stuff was great. The problem is that in 1966, Jacques Rivette made the same movie.
Oh, give me the Rivette anytime.
Yeah, right? Fla.
Any day.
Gla.
Yeah, gla.
Spla. So I would really pass on The Nun and just get the Jacques Rivette version from 1966. But look, Pauline Etienne is beautiful, and Isabelle Huppert is in it also, and she's great too. But I'm just saying that it's been done before and done better. There was a film at the Tribeca Film Festival a little while ago called Zero Motivation. And Zero Motivation is about these young female soldiers in this remote Iraqi desert outpost. And, I like this film. Not all the humor translates, but I really did like it. And what's interesting about it is that there's these huge shifts in tone. Like they'll be really funny, and they'll be singing songs, and playing video games, and then they'll just get very serious. But those shifts in tone, they're done pretty well, pretty smoothly by the director. His name is Talia Lavi. So hopefully Talia Lavi will do some more stuff. But I found Zero Motivation completely odd and surreal and thought-provoking and really interesting. So hopefully it'll get some traction on DVD from the good folks at Zeitgeist. We also have Tangerines. Now, this is not Tangerine, which is the film shot on an iPhone. This is Tangerines. And this one it's a bit of a sit, but it's not that bad. It's about this Estonian man. He's a little bit older, and he's caring for these two wounded soldiers. And the soldiers are on opposite sides of the war in Georgia from the 90s. And so it really is just this big essay on compassion and loving thy enemy and that kind of stuff. So it really is dramatically. It's fine, but this could have. There's been a lot of like Enemy Mine. We were talking about Enemy Mine on an email chain a while ago.
Totally.
Where like two people on the opposite ends of a war are forced together. And they have no choice but to work out their differences verbally because they're both wounded and they both got to sit there.
Well, it was Ray and I who were going back and forth. I said, it's just a remake of Hell in the Pacific. And Ray said, no, I think it's a timely gay marriage allegory because Lou Gossett gets pregnant. And
Ray took 2 and 2 and put it together and got 1 million. I don't think anybody thought it was that.
He didn't either, but he just happened to have watched it on that day, which I guess was more timely for him personally, but, whatever.
An interesting film called White God, and White God is about this young girl who has a dog.
This is kind of a big deal this year. This thing may wind up with some year-end awards love.
It could. It's very interesting. Yeah. It's about this girl has this mixed-breed dog, and she has to get rid of the mixed-breed dog because it has been deemed unfit by the state. So the dog is taken away, and then they decide, and then the dog and the girl slowly kind of get back together. And I think this film it says a lot about people who are unfit for society. They're deemed they're unloved. So it's this crazy revenge fantasy. You've never seen anything like it. It's gritty, but it's also kind of like a little bit sentimental. And it's a really cool little movie. I mean, it's from Budapest, so don't ask me to pronounce the director's name. Not going to happen. But as allegories go, I just think this thing was pretty effective. So I would definitely check out White God.
Sweet. All right, Mark, I'm gonna roll through a bunch here. We're gonna try to tie off the foreign section here, and then we'll wrap up with we're not gonna get through everything, so we'll wrap up with as much as we can. This is a French film from a director named Sophie Fillière, who I've never heard of before, but boy. You know what? She's really good, and she's got an interesting couple here in Emmanuel Devos and Mathieu Amalric. Look, both great French stars, terrific actors, and a really cool, simple, little, almost theatrical conceit about a couple who they go on a hike, and like a longtime couple, they go on a hike, and they just decide that the things aren't turning out well, and while on the hike, she says, "I'm not going back." And from there, you launch into this really, really interesting analysis of a relationship. What is not an interesting analysis of a relationship is My Mistress. So here's the deal. This is from Stephen Lance. And here's the deal. You're going to love this. So there's this kid, and an affair is tearing his parents apart, and so he goes down the street because he's curious about the lady who lives down the street who turns out to be a dominatrix, and that's how he sort of reconnects to life. This would be a completely crap movie if not for the fact that the mistress is Emmanuel Béart.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Manuel Béart is dominatrix. I'm all over it.
You're in.
Yeah, I'm in. That's the only reason I'm mentioning that in the same breath with French films is because it's Emmanuel Béart. Otherwise, it's shouldn't even be discussed in this segment. And then we also have a fascinating thriller from Claude Lelouch, who just has made more great films than some entire countries. This is a really cool thriller called Roman de Gare, which basically means, like a dime store novel. It means train station novel, but it means, like here we call it an airport novel or whatever. Anyway, it's a fascinating thriller that stars Fanny Ardant, Dominique Pinon, who, the little guy, the kind of squirrely guy from all of the, like from Delicatessen and all those movies. The Jean-Pierre Jeunet movies. They always have Dominique Pinon. He's the little guy. He was in the Alien scene. Yeah, put the mic up to your mouth.
And he was in Alien,
exactly.
Alien Resurrection.
Exactly.
Oh, one of them.
Yeah. No. Anyway, so they're in this. This is just really cool. It's about a woman played by Fanny Ardant, who is she's the novelist in the film, and she's looking to sort of populate her next book with interesting characters, and at the same time, a serial killer has escaped from prison. And how all of that intersects is just fascinating. And this is just one of this came out a few years ago, like 7 or 8 years ago, and it has not really made its way to DVD until now. And thank goodness it has, because it's really cool. Unbelievably, boy, I don't even know how to describe this. Gangs of Wasseypur is on Blu-ray from Cinelicious Pix. And this is just one of those completely unhinged Indian films that winds up making it over here. There are hundreds of unhinged Indian films that are made every year, but this thing is like old John Woo channeled through Bollywood, and it's completely crazy. The director is Anurag Kashyap, and this is like his Godfather, his Goodfellas, his... in some respects, I might even say it's like City of God, right? It's like an Indian City of God. It is high octane, and it is powerful, and it is just magnificent. And it's 5 hours long, Mark.
What?
It's 5 hours. Yeah.
That made me almost drop my phone.
I know, but it's great.
Wow.
It's really great. You know what else is really great? Benoit Jacot's latest film, Three Hearts. It's magnificent. This is a magnificent, magnificent movie. Benoit Poelvoorde, who we all know more from his comedies. He's a Belgian actor, basically Man Bites Dog. He's the guy. He's the serial killer in Man Bites Dog. Benoit Poelvoorde plays a guy who, by happenstance, meets Charlotte Gainsbourg, in a city, just via the train station. And... that eventually turns into a romance, and a romance that eventually incorporates her sister, Chiara Mastroianni. I will not spell out exactly how these characters interact, interrelate, who has a romance with whom, or how it affects whom, because so much of this is nonverbal. Here's the genius of this film. It's entirely about people, relationships, love, but it's all unspoken. If you were to just read the dialogue, you wouldn't have a slightest idea what this movie is about for 60 minutes, because the dialogue doesn't tell the story. The looks, the eyes, what people don't say, what's going on during the dialogue, alongside, out of view of the dialogue, is what tells the story. Benoit Jacot is such a master of this kind of stuff, and his films get better and better, and this I'm on the verge of saying this may be his masterpiece. And here's another one from the Cohen Film Collection, Mark. I got to tell you, this is amazing. This is a couple of Alain Resnais films, Love Unto Death and Life is a Bed of Roses. And, man, they've got a... Are you okay there with your... you were ripping on me for having my text.
That wasn't my phone.
Wasn't that yours? Is that me?
No, it's yours.
Oh, geez, see, I don't know why. Okay, well, anyway, two Alain Resnais films, double feature of Alain Resnais, Love Unto Death and Life is a Bed of Roses. And what makes these two films so amazing is that they have some of the best audio commentaries I've ever heard on any double feature Blu-ray ever in my entire life. They're amazing. They are like the most awe-inspiring audio commentaries. They are insightful, they're intelligent, they're witty.
Really?
They are. They're incredible. They're incredible.
Can you tell me who did the audio
Yes, I did.
commentaries?
Yes, I did them with Andy. I did. I'm co-host of both of these audio commentaries, and we had a lot of fun doing them.
We used to do audio commentaries.
Yes,
for Vanguard Cinema.
I'm going to try to hook us up for the Digigods branded audio commentaries again.
Are they still around?
Vanguard still do. They're like streaming stuff now. They're basically doing streaming.
Wait,
stuff.
that is you. That is not me.
I know.
Why don't you turn your phone off?
It's not the phone. It's the computer.
Well, then turn down the thing.
I did. I turned the volume down.
Thank you.
You're
What do you need to hear on the?
Well, it's not. It's the way the volume works now that I'm using a new audio system. So it's certain things go through the computer, and it used to all go through the mixing board, but it doesn't work that way anymore.
Christ on a cracker.
I'm sorry. I will master the technology eventually. Anyway, if you know anything about Alain Resnais, you know that he just his movies are sometimes impenetrable and impossible to explain, but these are two really good ones, and you just got to see them to believe them. You really do. And look, Andy and I do the audio commentaries. You got to you got to get into this. And especially Life is a Bed of Roses is really fun. So
wait, this chair is so uncomfortable. Seriously, why'd you give me this chair? What chair are you sitting in? Different chair, right?
It's exactly the same chair.
This chair is so uncomfortable.
You know what? You're always talking about how fat you are. Don't you have any cushion?
The problem is that can you imagine how much more comfortable this chair? I have so much cushion right now because I am enormously fat.
Yeah. Well, all right, fine.
That comment was going somewhere, then it got.
Are we
derailed.
done? Are we done with the foreign stuff? Did you have any more over there?
No,
you did all your
that's
stuff.
all I have.
Okay, so let's kill the show off with some.
Well, let's kill the show, all right?
Let's kill the show with some exploitation-y and classic stuff.
Well, Mystery Science. Come on.
Yeah.
33. This thing. I'll tell you something. You want to talk about a DVD series that keeps on going?
Yeah, I know.
There's 33 of these.
I know. It's
and there's
unbelievable.
others too. There's like the Essentials and whatnot. So. This is Mystery Science Theater 3000, Volume 33, Daddy-O, Earth versus the Spider, Teenage Crime Wave, which is the funniest one, and Agents of Harm. I don't know what to say. I actually stopped collecting these after a while. I couldn't take it anymore. Because, a lot of these are online.
I know.
The shorts are online. You can hear the shorts, which are always the funniest bits. Those are online. And although when I do find myself popping in a Mystery Science DVD, like, for instance, here I checked out Teenage Crime Wave. Now I pretty much just watch the movie. I don't watch the interstitial stuff, like the thing where they swap inventions and the little live action bits. I just go right to the movies now because there's been 33 of these.
I know, it's crazy. It's nuts.
It's
right?
crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
You did that last week.
I know. I do. I've done it several
Anyway,
times.
just letting you know that it exists. But ladies and gentlemen, the 33rd MST3K box set.
Okay, so we're going to roll through here really quickly on the exploitation stuff. I'm going to knock off this pile as fast as I can because it really doesn't warrant all that much conversation. From Shout Factory's Scream Factory line is the Charles Band production of Ghost Town, which is kind of like their low-budget zombie horror version of Westworld, and it's just... It's kind of stupid. But it's Charles Band, it has a certain kitschy 80s feel to it. The Erotic Rites of Frankenstein by Jess Franco is part of the Redemption line that is now being distributed by Kino Lorber. This comes with an audio commentary by Video Watchdog magazine editor Tim Lucas, which is probably the most interesting thing about it, because anything Jess Franco is a slog if you don't have context. And the Erotic Rites of Frankenstein, seriously, do I need to actually explain what this movie's about? Cult Epics does a lot. They dig up a lot of ephemera, man. They really kind of find the stuff that just drifts into the dust bunnies of cinema that just float underneath the bed. and boy did they get one here with Der Todesking. This is a limited edition release on Blu-ray, only 3,000 copies. This was made. This is the. I can't read this for the show because it includes not only collectible artwork but the 25th anniversary slipcover and corpse blanking art postcard. Mark, the corpse blanking art postcard. I will let you fill in the blank.
Oh no, this is a family show.
I know. Anyway, this is this thing was actually made between 1987 and 1991 by Jörg Buttgereit. I hope I don't mutilate that name, Buttgereit. And it is it's an anthology of stories about death and suicide. And they all deal with really gruesome, horrific stuff. And it's, it's not everybody's thing, but if you've ever seen the movie Necromantic, which was his previous film, you know exactly what you're expecting, what you're in for. But this is really intense underground stuff. We also have Toxic Avenger Part 3, The Last Temptation of Toxie.
Yeah.
Do I actually need to say anything more about that?
No, it's the best.
And a couple from Synapse Films. One is Samurai Avenger, The Blind Wolf. Not the best samurai film I've ever seen, but it's it sort of references as far as it's like an underground American quasi Zatoichi. It's not even American; it's Japanese film, but it's it's like a Zatoichi knockoff, really. So it's a revenge thing. It is what it is. It's not, there are better films in this genre, but this has kind of a following. Long Weekend, another revenge film, which is, okay. This is late 70s, so it still feels kind of exploitation-y, still feels kind of from the slasher era a little bit. It has that kind of John Carpenter Halloween-y feel to it. So, that's... a couple goes off on the wrong road, and next thing you know, all hell breaks loose, and yada yada. You fill in the blank. I love this movie. Takashi Miike is the most prolific filmmaker who's probably ever lived. He makes like a movie every 14 seconds. It's ridiculous. He just cranks them out.
But you know what? When he nails it, though, he nails it.
When he nails it, he nails it. Andy and I did a commentary for one of his films at one point, which we got great reviews for, and even though we still don't know what the movie's about, it winds up with somebody, like, character turns into a woman and then births himself out of the woman at the
Gozu.
end. Yeah.
Isn't that Gozu?
Yes.
The best.
You've seen Gozu?
Yes. At the end, he gives birth to a woman.
To himself.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, he turns into a woman and then he births himself out of her mouth at the end.
Right.
It's insane.
No, it's not.
It makes no sense at all. But we did a commentary for that, which people love. So anyway, I love the happiness of the Katakuras. And this is finally out on Blu-ray from the Arrow video line that is being distributed by MVD. This is a DVD and Blu-ray combo. And it's like, this is... I don't even know how to explain this movie. If this is like The Sound of Music crossed with, I don't know, like a horror film. It's crazy. It's really crazy. It's just got tons and tons and tons of extras on it. If you've ever seen Takashi Miike interviewed, we actually were able to interview him at the time we did Gozu. Holy cow, what a guy he is. We also got Pit Stop from the Arrow line, the Jack Hill exploitation film classic. That is now out on Blu-ray, also in a DVD and Blu-ray combo. Pit Stop is one of the most influential films of all time as far as the auto racing genre. It is a real classic, and you got to check this out. It's a beautiful transfer. Arrow is proving to be a really impressive line here. And then two more from the Arrow line. Spider Baby, also a Jack Hill film in a DVD and Blu-ray combo set. Spider Baby, not the best Jack Hill film, but a decent performance from Lon Chaney Jr. in this one, and an interesting entry in the exploitation corpus from that era. And then the last one from Arrow is Contamination, which comes with a slipcover, which the other ones don't. But this is kind of a very strange science fiction giallo hybrid, and it's essentially an Alien knockoff with a lot more gore. And it's got kind of a cult following, comes with a ridiculous amount of extras, hours of extras, and gobs of stuff you'll never get through. But, for people who like the idea of Alien knockoffs on a much lower level with a touch of the giallo gene, yeah, you could do worse.
All right, Wade, am I getting the last word this week?
Yep, go ahead.
Really?
Kill it.
It's exciting. We got 3 more for you. One is Borderline. This is one of those Charles Bronson programmers from 1980. He did a million of these. He did a million of these sorts of movies. Here he plays a tough as nails border patrol officer, and his best friend's murder. He's got to go find the killer. It's exciting.
Sweet.
Killer's played by Ed Harris. It's unbelievable. And Bruno Kirby's in this too.
Oh, I love
It's actually got a good cast.
That's sad. I miss Bruno Kirby.
I know. It's a stupid movie, but it's got a good cast. Anyway, Borderline, you've got to be a real Charles Bronson completist to go with that one. We have the uncut edition on Blu-ray of All Quiet on the Western Front. This is not the film from 1929 that won the Oscar winner. That won the Best Picture Oscar in 1929, right?
Maybe 29:30. Yeah.
29:30. This is the one starring Richard Thomas. Because what you really want, you don't want the one that won the Oscar for Best Picture. You want the one starring the guy from the Waltons.
Isn't Ernest Borgnine in this too?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I remember that. It was on TV.
So, and it's, Donald Pleasance is in it too.
Yeah.
So this is just lame. I'm sorry. This is just really just misbegotten. What the hell's the point? It was done just. I mean, look, it was directed by Delbert Mann, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But still,
Marty.
come on.
Yeah.
Now, Wade, I'm saving the best for last.
Save it.
Wade, let me tell you something.
Yes, sir.
Now, remember when Johnny Depp and what's his name did that Lone Ranger film? A couple years ago.
Yeah.
We got his name.
Yeah.
Army Hammer.
Yeah, who's now the man from U.N.C.L.E. because
Yes.
obviously he didn't destroy enough movies.
Yes. Oh, that movie looks funny.
Come on.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Why not?
Man from U.N.C.L.E. Really?
Yes. I mean,
really?
It's going to be good. Yes. It's gonna be
Yeah,
good.
you think?
Yes.
Really?
You know why? It's going to be like how much did we love The Kingsman?
Yeah, we did love The Kingsman. But in the year where we're looking forward to Mission Impossible and where we're also looking forward to another Bond film, does anyone really want to see The Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
In 1981, there was another Lone Ranger film. This was going to be the one, Wade.
I know.
This was going to just relaunch Lone Ranger.
This starred that dude. What was his name?
This starred the beautifully named Clinton Spilsbury.
That's the one.
As the Lone Ranger. Now, at the time, this was a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
Clinton Spilsbury. Turns out this guy was so bad, they had to dub all of his dialogue.
Yeah.
You realize that,
I know.
James Keach dubbed all. Was it James or Stacey?
It was one. Yeah.
I think it was James Keach. This guy was so bad that they had to bring in another actor to dub all of his dialogue.
That's unbelievable.
This thing was just a misbegotten. It was just horrible. This thing was just a big bomb. It stars Jason Robards, which I guess is always cool. But and Christopher Lloyd, and that's always cool. Right. But this is like they just can't get the Lone Ranger right. The thing is that in the early '80s, nobody wanted to see a Western.
I know.
You see, nowadays, no one wants to see a Western either. But at least people love tentpole films with pre-sold properties. In the early '80s, no one wanted to see a Western with some guy named Clinton Spilsbury. Oh, seriously! And the Oscar goes to Clinton Spilsbury. That guy has not done a movie since.
I know.
He has not done a movie.
I know.
This was it.
I hope he had points.
But what? The funny thing is that this movie only cost $18 million. Like in 1980, that was a lot of money. But
it bombed so hard.
It was a big disaster. Everybody hated it. The guy got his dialogue dubbed. It was just a huge boondoggle.
He's selling cars in Pacoima.
I mean, if you want to see a film that is like one of the classic Ishtar-ish, although Ishtar's not a bad film.
Ishtar's a great film.
But it's one of those classic
too much.
Hollywood bombs.
Wow.
I would check out The Legend of the Lone Ranger starring
Clinton Spilsbury. That's one of my favorite movie names of all time. It sounds like half movie star and half like you should have changed that. You're checking him up, aren't you?
Oh, yeah,
you want to see?
Right now.
Yeah, there you go.
He's 64 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Born in Chihuahua, Mexico.
He was born in Mexico.
His sole acting credit.
No Legend of the Lone Ranger.
Sole acting credit.
It doesn't say what he's doing now? Obviously he's 64, so he hasn't starved. So he's still alive somehow.
In 1989, he spent time as a model. His acting career, but he has coached acting workshops.
Oh, he's coached acting workshops and taught people how to be dubbed.
And I actually do remember this. And, when the Lone Ranger came out, the Johnny Depp film, people wanted to talk to Spielberg about what he was doing.
Oh, wow.
The film, and
He should have. He said, "See, now mine's not the worst one of all time."
The Variety says, as of 2013, he's working in LA as a
Wow, that's interesting. Well, good. Second career. All right, with that, Mark, we're done. See you by next week.